This is the follow-up video to my first one about what I do at IMI. In this video, I'm going to be talking about immunodiffusion. So immunodiffusion, immuno, antibodies again, and then diffusion, things spreading out. How this test works is antibody antigen binding can be visualized based upon a band that forms from the binding of antigen to antibody based off of a method known as Ochterlony double diffusion. In one well, in a gel matrix, there are holes punched out. And then in those holes are loaded the reagents, the ingredients to the test, so the antigen and the antibody. So in this picture, there are two wells. There's an antigen denoted by AG and antibody denoted by AB. Again, the antigens come from the growth of these pathogens or it's a protein related to the pathogen, would be the antigen, and then the antibodies come from patient serum. And so when those two fluids diffuse through the gel, then where they meet in the same concentration and then they bind, this band will form. So there's a picture of that to the right. It says how it looks in agarose. Agarose is a sugar, that jello type material. And those two black circles are those wells. So they're just holes cut into the bottom of the dish where this test takes place. At IMI, I make the reagents for the antigen, and we also make a positive control. So controls are a way to make sure our test is working right. Is our antigen working right? So if all the patient samples are negative and the positive control is negative, something went wrong in the test, rather than, oh, all these patients must be negative, and moving on. The control helps to determine if the test itself worked or not, or if something else went awry. Versus if we have a positive control, that's showing banding, and then we have patient banding, we can see that line from antigen and antibody binding, then again, high likelihood that that patient has a fungal infection. The antibodies in the test form come from the patient sample. So the antigen is added, the patient sample is added, and if there's binding between the patient sample and the antigen, then there's a high likelihood that that patient has antibodies against this pathogen. And the way that the patient gets the antibodies in their serum is by having an infection from these pathogenic fungi. From the kinds of bandings we see, there's more information you can learn. There's more to the test than just, is there banding, is there not banding? What does the banding look like? And you can learn things from that. So two simple ones, identity versus non-identity versus partial identity. It lets you know about the types of proteins you're looking at. In this final picture, this picture I put in just for what does this test look like in the real world. So there's these white lines, those are the bands, and then you can see the wells in the plate. That is where the antigen and patient samples are loaded. So in summary, immunodiffusion is a testing method that uses liquid antigen and serum. They're placed into wells in a gel, and then where binding occurs, then that binding can be visualized by a precipitin band, that white line. That's generically what's going on in immunodiffusion. And so how does that relate to what I do at IMI? My job is to make those reagents, that antigen and a positive control associated with that antigen. So we know that the antigen is working, and that if there are any positive patient results, if there are any patients with banding, that we have confidence that that is to that antigen and not for other reasons that there's banding appearing.